Hello and welcome to Indie Game Hustle. My name is Charles, and in this video what we're going to do is create an audio slider. The audio slider is kind of like an extension of the menu videos that I just recently created, and this is generally so when you go to your settings screen and you want to control the music and maybe even the effects of your game, like the sound effects, you want to have two separate sliders that reduces the volume for one or the other. So if you want your music to be a little lower and have your sound effects higher, you can do that. And so I just wanted to take the time to show you kind of how I came up with this particular slider. Now, just a little background, I didn't go into this knowing how to do it. It required me to kind of go outside the box and figure out a way to accomplish it. And surprisingly, I took some time and took a look at the Game Creator Hub. The hub is full of different, I guess you can say, actions and triggers, different things to extend the base version of Game Creator. So what I did was realize I needed to create my own action, my own trigger in order to kind of do the things that I was doing. So I created an audio slider action. And hopefully this works out for you guys as it's working for me. I'm going to put a link in the description that you can go to the hub and look at all the other wonderful actions and triggers and things that are there, but also one to get directly to the audio slider action that I created so that you can follow along with this particular video. Okay? All right. So the first thing that we're going to do is start with just kind of setting up a mock-up settings menu just for volume, just for our sound and things, so we can get going. So the first thing I'm going to do is right click on over here in the hierarchy, and I'm going to go down to UI and I'm going to go down to panel, and that's going to give me a canvas and a panel with a grayish background. I'm going to change that background to be completely solid, and I'm also going to make it dark. Okay, so I'm going to bring it down just about that. All right, perfect. All right, and the next thing I'm going to do is right click on canvas, go down to UI, and I'm going to create a text mesh pro image or a text image here, and I'm just going to type in the word sound, and I'm going to go ahead and center that just like so. And I'll just bring that up just a tidbit there, and I'm going to rename this sound text. All right, and then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to bring that down and over to I guess right about there, and I'm going to rename this music. All right. And I'm going to rename this as well. And I typically rename a lot of these things just to make sure that when you're looking through your hierarchy, you want to make sure that you can find things. In this particular one, I'm going to rename it to be FX. Just like so. And go ahead and change this. All right, perfect. And I could actually reduce the size of both of these to about 24. All right, great. And I like to kind of make sure it's kind of even. All right, nice. All right, so we have sound and we have our music and effects text. Now the next thing I want to do is right click on canvas, and I want to get the slider that we're going to be using for this. So I'm going to click on slider here, and I'm going to move that slider right under music, and I'm just going to name it music slider. Just keep this really simple. Music slider. And then of course I'm going to duplicate this music slider, move it over to the left, and then we're going to call this the FX slider. All right. So the next thing we want to do is create some buttons for the FX slider. All right, so and really these buttons are going to trigger some sounds that I have. I have ground, I have magic, I have a tree branch sound that I found here, and it's basically just going to trigger a sound so that we can determine if the FX slider is working properly. So on Canvas, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to go down to UI, and I'm going to go to Button Text Mesh Pro, and I'm going to take that button and put it here. And I'm going to rename this button FX1 button. And let's see here, I'm going to name this FX1. All right. And then I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate this button. Save us a little bit of time. FX2, get rid of that. And go ahead and rename this text as well. And of course, duplicate FX3. So I'm going to name that. And let's go ahead and do that. And I'll bring this down here. All right. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play just to make sure everything is working the way it should, and I'm going to do maximize. All right, great. So we have everything working the way it should. And while this is not a design tutorial, I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of this line here if you ever wondered what that is. If you go to panel, if you see here background, this background has a sprite here, so we're going to go ahead and just get rid of that here and bring that all the way up and just hit none, so it'll be completely solid all the way around. All right, good. All right, so the first thing we want to do is go ahead and set up the action that we're going to use for our sound, music, and effects. So the first thing I want to do is go ahead and outside of the canvas, we want to right click, go to Game Creator, and we're going to click on Actions. I'm going to rename this action Audio Action, just to make sure that I can identify it quickly. Okay, now, as I said before, the action that I created is listed on the Game Creator Hub. So make sure that you go there and get that, because that's the only way you're going to be able to follow along. So when you do that, what you want to do is download that particular audio slider. And the other one is actually called the OnClick button. So there's going to be two, OnClick button and audio slider. You want to download those. And what you want to do is save those in your assets folder, and you can create a folder, any name that you want. You can call it My Actions, and then you can put those actions in that folder. Okay. Now, once you actually save those folders in your assets for your project, go to your actions here. And the audio slider should be listed under audio. And at the very bottom, you'll see it called audio slider. So go ahead and click on that. All right, so we have a few options we're gonna need to fill in here before we get going. We're gonna have the music slider that needs to be filled in, the FX slider. We're gonna have to create some variables here, and we're gonna go ahead and put in a master mixer. Okay. Now, if you ever forget anything, just keep in mind, if you hover over this, it'll tell you basically place your slider here. This is going to say where to create the variables, and the master mixer one is going to give a little bit of brief description of what to do. But that's what the video is for. So the first thing we're going to do is go to our music slider. So let's go ahead and find that music slider. We're going to click and drag that into that slot. And we're going to do the same thing for the FX slider. Okay. All right. And then the next thing we want to do is create some variables. All right. So this name can be anything you want, but I'm going to go ahead and name mine music mix. And then the next one will be FX mix. Okay. And in terms of the master mixer, what I want to do is go ahead and go to wherever your folder is. I'm going to right click inside the project folder, go to create, and where it says audio mixer, just click on audio mixer. And what we're going to do is name this. So you can name it whatever you want, but I'm going to name mine main mixer. Okay. Main mixer. There we go. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and click on audio actions, and I'm going to click and drag this here into this point. All right. So now let's take a look at our mixer. So go ahead and click on the main mixer here, and when you click on this arrow here, it's going to give you a little bit of drop down. Now you have the actual mixer element, you have the master, and you have the snapshot. Now this master it's kind of like a group, and the snapshot is kind of like a snapshot or a time. We're not going to be utilizing snapshot, but we are going to be utilizing groups. So what we need to do is open up the window for the audio mixer. So what you want to do is go to Window, go to Audio, and click on Audio Mixer. It's going to show up here. I'm not sure where it's going to show up on yours, but I'm going to click and drag this over to the side so I can see it better. All right. So it gives us a bit of information here. I'm going to minimize this because that's a different mixer that I have created, but you may only have one listed here. Just make sure it's highlighted. Okay. So I'm going to highlight my main mixer. Now at the bottom, you see where it says groups. What we want to do is create two groups. The first group is going to be the music group, and the second group is going to be the FX group. Okay. So I'm going to click the plus symbol here, and we're going to go ahead and name this music. I'm going to select master and hit the plus symbol again, and I'm going to call it FX. Now, if you hit the plus symbol while music is selected, what it's going to do is take FX and it's going to make FX a child of music, and you don't want that. What you want to do is make sure that if it is a child of music, you can simply drag it out and reorder it as needed. Okay. All right. So what this does is it gives us these different groups here. Okay. And music volumes, the volume is basically 0 is the highest volume, and 80 or -80 is going to be the lowest, so basically silent. Okay. Now what we're going to need to do is expose some parameters so that our variables and everything kind of knows what's going on. That's the only way that everything is going to be connected. So the first thing what we want to do is click on this group, this music group here, and move your mouse over to where it says volume. I want you to right click, and where it says expose, click on that. Now, once you click on that, you're going to see an area that says expose parameters, and it might have a number here, like 1. Click on that for a drop down, and you're going to see my expose param or parameter. So I'm going to right click on this and rename it. I'm going to rename it the same name that we used in our audio action, and it's going to be music mix. And we're going to do the same thing for the effects group. We're going to right click on volume, expose, drop down, and what we're going to do is right click on this one. And we're going to do rename, and we're going to call this FX mix. All right. So just to make sure that my parameters and my variables are matching, I'm just going to look at that, and then I'm going to click on audio actions. And as you can see, music mix and FX mix, everything is matching as it should. All right. Now there is one more area that our variables need to match, and that's going to be actually in our game creator preferences and then our variables. Now what you want to do, I already have it created here, but what you want to do is create two variables, one called music mix and one called FX mix, or of course whatever name that you decided to use. And if you're not familiar on how to do that, you simply hit this plus key. You can hit it twice, and you would simply name your variable as needed, and you would change the type to number. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of those because I already have those created. So remember, this needs to match the parameters, which also needs to match the action variables listed here for it all to work properly. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and close this window. We don't need this window open for the moment. And what I'm going to go over to now is, now that we have all of these created and everything connected, I'm going to click on my sliders. Okay, so I'm going to click on the music slider. Now, in order for the music slider to be aware of all these different values changing, we need to have that volume change over time, and it has to take an event or a function call. So I'm going to hit this plus key, and what I'm going to do is take this audio action, I'm going to click and drag it here where it says runtime only, none object. Click and drag that there, and I'm going to click where it says no function. I'm going to go down to audio slider, and I'm going to go up all the way to the top where it says dynamic float. Now since this is the music slider, I want you to select the one that says set music level. Select that one, and we're going to do the same thing for the effects slider. So we're going to select the effects slider, take this audio action, and before we do that, of course, we want to make sure that we have this created. We're going to take this audio action, click and drag here, and we're going to go here, and instead of music, we're going to set effects level. Okay, great. So now we have those connected. What I'm going to do, just for testing purposes, I'm going to take a look and see what we need to do in hitting play. But right before I hit play, there is one more thing we need to take a look at. Go ahead and click on the music slider. Remember when I talked about how the mixer and the groups, it's 0 for the highest value and -80 for silent? Well, we need to make sure that the music slider and the FX slider is also represented that way. So when you click on the music slider, go over where it says minimal value or min value and change the minimal value to -80 and the max value to 0. And you want to do the same thing for the FX slider here. So we want to change this to -80 and change this one to 0. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and I'm going to open Game Creator Preferences, and I want this to be viewable while we hit play, just to see if everything is connected properly. I'm going to hit play. All right. And so what I'm going to do, our music mix variables here are at 0, and our music in our scene here, we have our sliders. And if I move these sliders, you can see them moving from -80 to 0. And that's working so far, so good, working properly. All right. All right, and our buttons are not working yet, so we're gonna get those going here soon. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit play and get out of here. All right, so let's get some music playing first. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and close this preferences window. In the hierarchy, I'm gonna right click and I'm going to do let's see, a trigger. And I want this to play the music. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and name this play music trigger. All right, now I want the music to actually start as soon as the scene starts. Okay, so the trigger is on start and I want an action, and I'm gonna double click here and it's gonna take me to this action, or you can just click it, and I'm gonna hit add action. I'm gonna go to where it says audio and I'm gonna play sound 3D. All right, so the first thing in this list is audio clip. So if you have some music, go ahead and drag your music there. So I'm gonna drag my music here, click and drag that there. The next area is gonna say audio mixer. Now we don't want the default sound mixer. What we want is the custom one. So we wanna select custom, and we need to assign this to the music group. So go into your project folder and look at your main mixer, and if you drop down this here, you will see where it says music. I want you to click music and drag it, and that's going to allow you to assign that to that group. Okay, now we shouldn't need to do anything else here unless you want to play with some of these settings, but I'm going to leave these as default. All right, so let's take a look and see if our music is actually going to be affected by our slider. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play. All right, so we have some music playing. So let's go ahead and move this slider. There we go. So we're able to adjust the music by using our slider. So everything so far is working properly. I'm gonna go ahead and go to Game Creator Preferences, and I want you to also take a look at the music mix variable. As that changes, everything is working pretty well here. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and close this, and I'm gonna go ahead and hit play so we can get out of this. All right, great. So next thing we're going to need to do is actually connect these buttons to play some sound effects. Now for the buttons, I actually created a very simple action that allows you to on-click and it will just execute. So it's a trigger to on-click a button. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'm assuming you've already added that to your project. All right, and if you haven't, go ahead again, go into the hub and get that. All right, so what you want to do is right click, and what we're going to do is create a trigger. So we're going to go to Game Creator Trigger. Okay, and what I'm going to do is go ahead and name this trigger right now. I'm going to call this FX1 trigger. And on this trigger, if you click it and you go to the right, we're going to change this from on start. We're going to go under, I believe it's in, let's see here. Is it UI? Yep, I have it listed under UI. So go ahead and click on button click. Okay. Now, this trigger is basically saying when you click on this button, execute whatever you need to be executed. So if you have actions here, execute. If you have conditions, execute. Okay, so what we're going to need to do is drag the button you need to be clicked into this section here. And of course, you've already nicely organized your FX button. So we're going to take this FX button 1 and drag it here. Okay, and what I'm going to do now is go ahead and click on create an action. And I'm going to double click on that. I'm going to go to add action, and I'm going to go down to audio and play a sound 3D. And I'm going to go to one of my sound effects here where it's called ground. I'm going to click and grab that into here and put it there. Now, if you've already guessed it, yes, you want to go ahead and select custom, and where it says mixer group, of course, you want to do FX. All right, perfect. All right, so that's all put together there. That should be working properly. Let's go ahead and connect the rest of these buttons. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this action or this trigger, and I'm going to go ahead and rename it, make sure everything is the way it should be. And then I'm going to make sure that this button is the proper button. So I'm going to go ahead and select this and move it here. And I'm going to go to the action and change the sound clip or the audio clip here to a magic sound. Okay. And we can leave the mixer group because we want this to be under that particular group. And I'm going to copy or duplicate and do the same thing for this one. And this one's going to be FX3. And I'm going to go ahead and change that button as well to FX3. And I'm going to change this action to a different sound effect or a tree branch. Okay, great. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and bring those all down. So just keep in mind now when we hit play music, or when this starts, this is going to play music, and it's going to what? It's going to on start, and it's going to automatically go and play these actions. And when we click on this button, it says on button click your button, FX button 1, and it's going to play a sound. Of course, it should play a sound. Let's find out. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play. Let's see if everything is working. All right, so we have a sound playing. Verify that it changes. Good, that's still working. I'm gonna bring it down just a tad bit. And if I hit FX1, we have a sound effect. If I hit FX2 and 3, great. So all of those are working. So if I go ahead and click that a few times, we can click that as many times as we want. Now let's reduce the volume of the FX slider. Ah, perfect. So that sound has been reduced, and so has the rest of them. And that's exactly what we want. Good, perfect. So our music volume was reduced, and so was our FX sound. I'm going to go ahead and hit play. And that's pretty much it. I hope that made a lot of sense. I just want to make sure that you understand that when it comes to the variables, you just want to make sure that the audio actions here, where you do your variables and your FX, everything has to match for it to work completely properly, so that you can see your values changing. And also, of course, your parameters and everything also need to match. So you want to make sure all of that is there. And of course, remember, make sure that you go to the Game Creator Hub and download the audio slider and the OnButtonClick action and trigger that I created there. And don't forget to look at all the other actions that are there, because they really help expand your game or whatever you got going on. It really is useful to take a look at that. So of course, if you have any questions, I'm always going to be available in the comments section. So if you have anything, feel free to leave me a message. I love hearing from you guys. And of course, make sure that you check out the Game Creator Discord, because it's a great place to just hang out and get to know people and learn things, and also provide solutions to things that you've learned, because we're all learning together. And that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to subscribe if you find it useful. And of course, always remember, never give up and keep moving forward. Peace.